You meet someone new. The conversation feels fine. Nothing alarming, but something in you tightens. They didn't insult you. They didn't raise their voice. They smiled. They were polite. But you walk away feeling smaller. That wasn't an accident. What you just experienced was a test, and you didn't even know you were taking it. Most people think manipulation starts with words, a lie, a guilt trip, a threat. But that's not where it begins. The most dangerous manipulators don't start by attacking you, they start by measuring you. They're watching how you react to silence, to a look, to a shift in energy. They're studying whether you'll shrink, apologize, or overcompensate when nothing was even said. And here's the part most people miss. These tests aren't loud. They're not obvious. They happen in the space between the words. A pause that lasts too long, a glance that lingers, a question that wasn't really a question. You think you're just being polite or overthinking or sensitive, but your body already knows. It picked up on something your mind hasn't named yet. Let's start with the simplest one, the boundary test. This is when someone does something small that crosses a line, just slightly, and then watches to see if you'll say anything. They show up late. No apology. Just a casual, traffic was insane. They borrow something without asking, return it damaged, act like it's no big deal. They make a comment about your appearance, your choices, your life, framed as concern or a joke, and then they wait. Because what they're really testing is this. Will you speak up, or will you let it slide? If you let it slide, you just told them something important. You told them your boundaries are negotiable, that discomfort won't stop you from keeping the peace. And now they know. The next test will be bigger. Here's the psychology. Manipulators don't start with huge violations because that would trigger resistance. They start small. They normalize disrespect in tiny doses. So by the time the big stuff happens, you're already trained not to react. Then there's the emotional bait test. This one's more subtle. It happens when someone shares something vulnerable or dramatic or emotionally charged, and then watches to see how much you'll carry for them. They tell you about a problem. You listen. You care. You offer advice. But then they don't take it. They come back with the same problem, again and again. Or they overshare, fast. Too much, too soon. Personal details you didn't ask for. Trauma. Complaints about everyone in their life. And you feel something strange. A pressure. Like you're suddenly responsible for fixing them, or proving you're trustworthy, or showing you're not like the others who abandoned them. That pressure, it's the test. What they're really doing is measuring your empathy. How much will you give? How quickly will you prioritize their emotions over your own boundaries? Because people who manipulate know something most people don't. Kind people will exhaust themselves trying to help. And once you're exhausted, you're easier to control. Now this one lives entirely in silence. It's not what they say. It's how they make you feel without saying anything at all. They go quiet, cold, withdrawn. You ask if something's wrong. They say, I'm fine. But the energy says otherwise. And now you're the one scrambling to figure out what you did. Apologizing for things you didn't do. Over-explaining. Trying to fix a problem they won't name. That's the test. They're conditioning you to manage their emotions, to take responsibility for their mood, to believe that when they're upset, it's your job to fix it, even if they won't tell you what's wrong. Here's the mechanism. Manipulators use emotional withdrawal the same way a parent uses the silent treatment with a child. It creates anxiety. It makes you chase reassurance. It shifts the power dynamic. And once you're in the habit of chasing, they don't need to ask for anything anymore. You'll offer it. This one's darker. It starts with a comment. Casual, almost forgettable. Your friends seem to kind of fake. Your family doesn't really get you. Do they? I don't know. I just feel like people take advantage of you. They're planting a seed, and then they wait. Because what they're testing is whether you'll start to doubt the people around you, whether you'll begin to see your relationships through their lens instead of your own. And if you do, if you start pulling back from others, confiding in them more, depending on them more, they know they're in. The psychology here is insidious. Isolation doesn't happen all at once. It happens through small suggestions, tiny doubts, a slow reframing of your reality, until one day you realize they're the only person you talk to anymore. and you don't even remember how that happened. Here's what you need to understand. You didn't fail these tests because you're weak. You didn't fail because you're naive or broken or too trusting. You failed because you were never taught what to look for. Most of us grow up learning to trust words, to take people at face value, to give the benefit of the doubt, to be kind. And those are good things. But manipulators know how to use those good things against you. They know that the kinder you are, the more you'll ignore your discomfort, the more you'll rationalize, the more you'll blame yourself for overreacting, stung, and that discomfort, that tightness in your chest, that feeling of being off balance, that's not paranoia. That's your nervous system recognizing a threat your mind hasn't caught up to yet. So what do? First, stop dismissing your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. You don't need proof. You don't need to explain it. You're allowed to trust your own nervous system. Second, watch for the pattern, not the moment. One boundary crossed could be a mistake, but two, three, four, that's information. Third, stop overfunctioning. If someone makes you feel responsible for their emotions, their problems, their mood, pause. Ask yourself, did I cause this, or am I just reacting to pressure? And fourth, this is the most important one. Practice non-reaction. You don't have to call them out. You don't have to bite. You don't have to explain yourself. Just stop participating. When they go cold, don't chase. When they cross a boundary, don't smooth it over. When they bait you emotionally, don't take it. Manipulators rely on your reaction. Without it, the test doesn't work. Here's the truth. Most manipulation doesn't happen in the big moments. It happens in the small ones, the quiet ones, the ones you second guess later. But now you know what to look for. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If this explains something you felt but couldn't name, subscribe. There's more where this came from. And if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller without knowing why, drop a comment. You're not alone in this. The most powerful thing you can do is stop testing yourself and start trusting what you already know.